what is the basic idea of confirmatory factor analysis? The basic idea is that we use repeated measurements of the same attribute so that we can identify the so-called true score variance, which is, as we will see, identified via the covariances of the different repeated measurements of our latent variables. So for example, we use multiple items, multiple indicators, multiple subscales to measure constructs such as physical health or subjective health. And then through the use of multiple indicators, we can identify the true score variance as the common variance across different indicators. So what different indicators share then must be the reliable portion. That's the idea behind factor analysis, whereas the residual variance that is left over after partialing out the factors would be measurement error variance. So in other words, the factors in confirmatory factor analysis account for the common variance or covariance between different measurements, and then once we partial out those factors, we have residual variance or error variance that reflects measurement error. Let's take a look again at our simple one-factor model to understand better how this works technically. In the one-factor model, we had a latent variable that was called physical health, and we assumed that this variable physical health is not just measured with one indicator, the number of sick days in a given year, but also the number of physician visits in a given year. So we have two indicators, so say a repeated measurement of the same attribute with two different indicators, two different observed variables. And so now we connect our latent variable physical health to those two indicators, and specifically this latent variable physical health accounts for the covariance between the number of sick days and the number of physician visits. We would expect that those two variables are positively correlated, meaning that they have a positive and non-zero covariance, because people who tend to report more sick days, they will also tend to go to the doctor more often typically, and so that covariance then is what gets absorbed by the factor physical health. So that makes use of that covariance to identify the variance of this latent factor, as we will see. And then after we partial out the common factor which accounts for the covariance, we have residual variance left, and that's the variance of the measurement error variables, variance epsilon 1 and variance epsilon 2. Now let's take a look at the closer look at the math, the equations behind this model and the parameters that are estimated in such a model. And so I first of all want to review with you the formal measurement equations that we already saw in the last session. So more formally, we could call that latent variable f1. So that would be our factor f1 reflecting physical health. And we have two indicators, y11 and y21. y11 was the number of sick days, and y21 was a variable that reflected the number of physician visits. We have factor loadings, lambda 11 and lambda 21, that connect the observed variables to the latent variables and the latent factor. And we have two error variables, epsilon 11 and epsilon 21. And so this model can be described by a measurement equation for each variable. For the first variable, the measurement equation looks like this. We have an intercept, alpha 11, which is not depicted in the path diagram. We have a multiplicative parameter or factor loading, lambda 11, and we have our factor and the error variable epsilon 11, and we have a similar equation for the second variable, y21 as well. So those two equations describe this measurement model of the single factor f1, and now the question is, what parameters are actually estimated in this model? So what are unknown or free parameters that we want to estimate to, for example, look at true score and error variance? In this model, we have obviously the two factor loadings as unknown parameters, lambda 1, 1 and lambda 2, 1. Those are regression coefficients and they are not previously known, so we would want to estimate them. We have the intercept parameters or additive constants, alpha 1, 1 and alpha 2, 1. We have the factor variance, and we have the two error variances for the epsilon term. So those are key parameters of the model because we want to separate true inter-individual differences in physical health from differences in the number reported in the number of sick days and the number of physician visits that are just due to random measurement error. And the factor variance var f1 does this job, so see, of giving us an estimate of the true score variance, whereas var epsilon 1 1 and var epsilon 2 1 give us estimates of the error variance component in each measure. And so since the factor f1 is uncorrelated by definition with the epsilon 1 1 and epsilon 2 1 measurement error variables, those are independent sources of variance. So we have the factor variance and we have the error variances, and so we can partition the variance of the observed variables into true score variance and error variance, and that's one of the key features of confirmatory factor analysis, that it allows for the separation of the observed variance into true score and error variance. Now you can see here that we have in this model 7 free parameters, 2 loadings, 2 intercepts, 2 error variances and the factor variance. So even the small model has a large number already of free or unknown model parameters, and now we need to talk about how we can connect this these unknown parameters to known information. So where does the information come from that allows us to estimate parameters in a confirmatory factor analysis model and or a structural equation model? So let's take a look at the side of the knowns as well, now that we know what the unknowns are that we want to estimate. And so the known information comes obviously from the observed indicator. So what we have in our data are the variables that represent a count of the number of sick days, and we have a count of the number of physician visits, however that is measured, but that's what we have in our data for each individual, the number of sick days, the number of physician visits. And so for these observed variables, we can then calculate their means or expected values, and also the covariance matrix with the variances in the diagonal and the covariance of diagonal. So those are the only pieces of information that we use when we estimate a confirmatory factor model, when we estimate a full structural equation model, when we estimate a path analytic model with observed variables. And so that parallels what we do in regression analysis, where we could also estimate all the parameters of a multiple regression model if we just had the mean vector and the covariance matrix for our observed variables. So this shows you what the known information is that goes into a confirmatory factor analysis model, and also would go into a full structural equation model. And on the other hand, it shows you that there's not enough information here to estimate all the parameters of this one factor model with 2 indicators, because we saw that there were 7 free parameters, 7 unknowns, but we only have 5 pieces of information here, so this cannot work. So we have to figure out how we can nonetheless estimate a factor model in this case when we have only 5 pieces of known information but so many parameters. And so the solution here is to make some restrictive assumptions that simplify this one factor model. And specifically what we can do is we can assume that we have variables that are essentially tau equivalent. So that would be called a model of essential tau equivalence in classical test theory or classical measurement theory, where essential tau equivalence means that the variables have the same factor loading. So they measure a common latent variable or a common factor with the same units of measurement. And so the factor loadings then can be both fixed to 1, and that does two things. It takes away from the side of the unknowns, so it eliminates two free parameters from the model, because lambda 1, 1 and lambda 2, 1 then no longer have to be estimated. They are fixed to 1. So that's helpful because it takes away unknowns, and it's also helpful because it defines the scale of F1. F1 at the beginning is not uniquely defined in terms of its metrics, so it's not clear what the units of measurement of the latent variable physical health would be. How is that measured? But now it's clear because it's now measured in the same units as the number of sick days and the number of physician visits, so number of days, so to say, are the units of measurement of this latent variable. And so the idea is that we assume that two variables share essentially the same true score variable, essentially the same meaning with the same loadings, and that the measurement error variables are uncorrelated with one another. And then we have a model of essential tau equivalence. And that model then has only 5 parameters left: the 2 intercepts, the factor variance, and the 2 error variances. And those are the variances are the critical parameters anyway, because that's of key interest to us, is to separate true score variance or reliable variance from error variance. So those are the ones that we really care about. The loadings in this case we don't care about that much. Later we will see that in extended models, when we have more indicators per factor and or more factors in a given model, more than one factor, then it's not necessary to fix both of the loadings to 1, because then we have more information from other variables that allows us to also identify some of the factor loadings. So it's not generally the case that you have to fix the factor loadings all to 1, but in this case it is necessary because there's only one indicator, there's only one factor, there are only 2 indicators, and in that case we have so little information, there's only one covariance available, and then we cannot also estimate the factor loadings. If you had 3 or 4 indicators, it would already look different, and you could also estimate some of those factor loadings. But here, for simplicity, I'm focusing on this very simple model to get the basic idea to you of how model identification works, how we can identify latent variances, for example, in a confirmatory factor analysis model. So with this simplification of the model to essential tau equivalence, we have now 5 free parameters left, and now it still remains to be shown that these 5 remaining parameters can be connected to observed information in such a way that there's a unique solution for each of the remaining unknown model parameters. And I told you previously that the information comes from the observed mean structure, the observed variable means, and the observed variances and covariances of the y variables. And so then we can apply models of covariance algebra and models for equations or rules, mathematical rules, algebraic rules for expected values to figure out how the observed variable means and variances are connected to the unobserved information here on the right hand side of the measurement equations. And so when we apply algebraic rules for means and for covariances, then we find that the alpha intercepts are directly identifiable as the observed variable means, because the latent factor mean is assumed to be 0 by default. The error variables have means of 0 by default, or by definition. They don't have means, and so therefore all that remains is the mean of y11 when we apply rules for means to this to the measurement equations. There's no mean of f1 and there's no mean of epsilon, and so therefore it can be shown that the observed variable means are directly equal to the alpha parameter. So that's not typically very interesting because the means, so say we know them from the observed data, so why use them to estimate alpha parameters? So that's usually not what we look at so much in a model like that, unless we have multi-group model data where we compare different groups and we compare group means, or we have longitudinal data where we look at the longitudinal development across time. Then the means are of greater interest. But in a cross-sectional factor analytic model, typically the main interest is in the covariance structure, and so it can be shown that the covariance between the two observed variables is what identifies the factor variance under the assumption of essential tau equivalence. And so this is a key piece of importance here, because that's what we want to know. We want to know what is the reliable variance component, and you can see that that's directly given by the covariance between y21 and y11. And that makes sense because what they share, these two variables, so to say, is what is reliable and what is not just random error, so to say what is replicable across two different indicators, and that's directly what formally gives us the factor variance. And then the error variances, variance epsilon 1,1 and epsilon 2,1, can also be identified based on the observed variances and covariances. They are given as the difference between each observed variance and the covariance. So once we subtract what the reliable variance, what remains is the unreliable variance. So that makes intuitive sense also to say the remaining portion or the residual portion of the observed variance, after taking into account the common variance, the communality between the variables, that is what is random measurement error variance. And so you can see that each of the 5 unknown model parameters could be linked directly to observed information, meaning it can be, we can find a unique solution for each parameter, and there's one and exactly one solution. Therefore the model here is saturated, or we say just identified. There is no piece of observed information left that we're not using to find a parameter, and so that the model is just identified. In the same way as, for example, a multiple regression model would be just identified, where based on observed means, variances, and covariances, we can exactly identify all the regression parameters. This is different when you have more indicators or more factors. When you have larger models, then models are typically over-identified, meaning there are more pieces of information than you need to identify the unknown model parameters, and then the model is said to have testable restrictions, positive degrees of freedom. Then we can conduct a test of model fit to see if the model implied restrictions are in line with the observed data.